This video is brought to you by IXL, used by millions of students worldwide to get ahead in math, English, and more.
Have you ever read a passage and thought, okay, but what's the point? To figure that out, you have to find the main idea, which is also sometimes called the central idea. It's like finding the heart of the text, what everything else connects back to. And in this video, we'll practice using some strategies to identify it. Let's dive in. We'll start with this passage. The power of pumice. In certain parts of the ocean, sailors have reported puzzling patches of pale, rocky debris floating across the waves. These formations are known as pumice rafts, and they form when gas-filled lava that was expelled from underwater volcanoes cools and floats to the surface. Lightweight and porous, pumice rafts are capable of traveling thousands of miles on ocean currents. Scientists have recently discovered that pumice rafts serve an important ecological role. They act as natural ferries, transporting marine life to new environments. Tiny creatures such as barnacles, crabs, and coral larvae hitch rides on these floating rocks, allowing them to eventually establish themselves in areas they never could have reached on their own. As climate change threatens ecosystems around the globe, scientists believe that pumice rafts may offer a lifeline. By helping marine species colonize safer habitats and expand their range, pumice rafts increase biodiversity and help restore balance in struggling ocean ecosystems. All right, now let's review the passage and determine its main or central idea. First, the passage explains what pumice rafts are, how they're formed, and how they travel across the ocean. These details provide useful background knowledge by defining what pumice rafts are. Now let's take a closer look at the rest of the passage. It seems to describe an important cause and effect relationship. These details introduce the idea that pumice rafts carry ocean creatures to new environments. Then these details explain the effect pumice rafts have on ocean ecosystems. They explain that by carrying marine species to safer habitats, pumice rafts help protect the ocean's ecosystem from the threat of climate change. So, putting all this together can help us determine the main or central idea of the passage. We might sum it up in a statement like this. Pumice rafts help marine life travel to new environments, which supports the viability of ocean ecosystems. This captures the most important idea the text conveys. Now, before we move on, take a look at the title. It can help us make sure we're on the right track when it comes to determining the main idea. This title is The Power of Pumice, which suggests that the passage is all about how pumice can be useful or how it might help something. And sure enough, that connects to the main idea that we drew from the text. So I think we're on the right track with this one. Perfect. Let's try one more example. Two monstrous outsiders. Though separated by centuries of storytelling, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and the epic Beowulf both imagine monsters whose struggles begin with exclusion. Each monster begins as an outsider, set apart from humanity either by birth or by unnatural creation, and each struggles against a world that refuses to accept them. In Beowulf, Grendel is shunned and despised, marked from the beginning by his monstrous lineage. His bitterness deepens with every reminder of the community he cannot join. Frankenstein's creature likewise yearns for belonging, teaching himself language and seeking companionship, but he's met only with fear and rejection, which breeds an anger and desire for retribution within him. Their responses, whether Grendel's envy-fueled attacks or the creature's descent into vengeance, grow from the same root of exclusion. Though different in origin, they are both condemned to lives defined by alienation and hostility. All right, let's determine the main or central idea of this passage. This time, we'll look at a few different options for main idea statements and choose the best one. Here's our first one. Frankenstein's creature distinguishes himself from typical literary monsters through his desire to assimilate into human society. What do you think? Would this be a good main idea statement for this passage? Well, this statement is partly true. It highlights the creature's desire to belong, which is mentioned in the passage. But this statement only mentions Frankenstein's creature, not Grendel. And Grendel is an important element of the passage too, right? The passage compares the two creatures. Plus, look at this phrase, typical literary monsters. This is another clue that this isn't an accurate main idea statement. The passage doesn't compare Frankenstein's creature to all literary monsters. It only compares him to Grendel. So this statement doesn't capture the main idea. Let's check out another option. Frankenstein's creature and Grendel are each defined by their origins, one by creation, the other by cursed birth. This is a detail from the paragraph, but I think it misses the main focus. The origin of each creature is mentioned, but that's just background context, not the main point. The real emphasis seems to be more on how society treats them and how that leads to violence. It's what the bulk of the paragraph focuses on. So, this statement doesn't capture the main idea either. Let's try another. Frankenstein's creature and Grendel are both beings whose violent actions grow out of their rejection by society. Well, this one mentions both characters, and it focuses on how their violence results from exclusion, which matches the paragraph's message pretty closely, don't you think? So, this statement seems to nicely sum up the main or central idea of this paragraph. Now, in a well-written text, you should be able to take any particular detail from the passage and see how it develops or supports the main idea. Take this sentence, for instance. How does this detail support the main idea? Well, it illustrates how and why Grendel was rejected by society, doesn't it? It explains that society shunned and despised Grendel because of his monstrous lineage. And here, the passage elaborates on the continued effect of this experience. Then these supporting details draw a comparison between Grendel's rejection and that of Frankenstein's creature. See? Each of these details has a role to play in developing a text's main idea. Next time you read an informational text, pay attention to how the details build toward the main or central idea. Doing so will help you better understand what you're reading. And after all, that's the point, isn't it?
Head over to IXL.com for more practice on this skill and thousands more videos in math and language arts.